Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. So today's the day we're finally going to have a nosy in my makeup collection. I'm very sorry for the delay. I feel like it's been a long time since I asked you guys what you wanted me to start with in this collection series, as it will become. And you guys very clearly voted for eyeshadow palettes. So that's what we're going to be starting off with today. I'm going to be showing you all of my eyeshadow palettes and talking you through which ones I love, which ones I don't really use, which ones are my favourites, how I store them, and all that good tea. But before we get started, I've got a question of the day, and I'm so sorry. When I saved this question, when I screenshotted this question, I cropped off who asked it. So I'm so sorry that I don't know who asked this question. However, the question is, how many days are you wearing makeup right now? So this was asked quite a long time ago, like more so at the beginning of quarantine. So at the beginning of quarantine, I had a good few weeks where I just wore no makeup ever. I just had a few weeks. There was an awful lot going on. You know, we were dealing with lockdown. We were trying to make sure we had food. We were really struggling to get, hold of enough food and veg and things like that. Food and veg. I mean, veg is food, but you know what I'm saying. We were struggling to get hold of supplies and food for our family. We were trying to make sure that my parents and my husband's family were all safe, and my kids were obviously home full time. My husband was still working from home full time. We were home, or I was homeschooling both of my children full time. So there was a lot going on. I wasn't really filming. I had some videos to rely on that were backups, and so I wasn't filming. I had nowhere to go, and I just had no time or energy for makeup, so I just had a good few weeks not wearing makeup. After that, I started really valuing the process of putting makeup on. So I was probably putting on makeup maybe once, maybe twice a week for like the next couple of months. And now my daughter has been back to school. She's only back 2 days a week. My little boy as well is going to preschool 2 days a week, and I'm back filming. I'm back doing school runs, albeit only a couple. But yeah, I'm definitely feeling a bit more like myself. We're allowed to go and visit family now. We can, go to the shops, although we aren't. We're only really still going out if we really need to. So now I'm probably wearing makeup 3 times a week, which is much more like my normal number of times. And I'm definitely back to just really enjoying that whole process. And skincare as well. I feel, although I was still doing my skincare when I wasn't wearing makeup, you skip a couple of steps because you don't have the removal process. So I'm really enjoying that again, which is strange. But yeah, so I'm back at the moment. I'm wearing makeup probably 3 times a week, maybe 4 times a week. But for the majority of lockdown, it was once, if that, maximum of twice a week. Yeah, it really does make a difference to how I feel and how much I feel like I'm really living life, So without further ado, let's get stuck into these eyeshadow palettes. Okay, so let's start off with storage. So this is my vanity. If you want to see like the whole of my vanity, I did do a like kind of overview of all my makeup storage when I first moved up here. So that is already up on my channel. Here is where I store the majority of my palettes in this holder, and this is from By Allegory, which is on Amazon, and then the overspill goes into that drawer, which is that IKEA Alex table topper drawer. So the remainder of my palettes are in there. And then this is the other side of that unit where I just keep a couple of my mini palettes in here. This is like my face palette storage, but my mini palettes from Natasha Denona also sit nicely in there. So this is my main kind of palette holder. So I have this is the sort of most used palettes that I go for on a day-to-day basis. Now obviously it's very easy to recognize like the ABH palettes, which one's which, and the Natasha Denona palettes, which one's which, and this Charlotte Tilbury one at the front, obviously we know what that is. With the Mothership palette, so I have 4. Obviously Divine Rose is easy to tell because it's the rose gold packaging, but these 3, I put these in number order. So I have Motherships 1, 5 and 7, which is original Divine Rose. So these are in order, so I know which one to grab for if I just want to use one of those and I know I have a specific one in mind, I know what order they're in. And then, as I said, in this drawer is the rest of my eyeshadow palettes that I will take you through now. Okay, so this is my full eyeshadow palette collection. I haven't included like singles and creams because I just wanted to do my palettes on their own and give them their moment. So these are my Pat McGraths, these are my full-size Natasha Denonas, all down the middle are my ABH palettes, my Charlotte Tilbury, my Huda, my Sigma palette, my Viseart, and these are the 2 mini Natasha Denonas that I have. So this is everything that I own by way of eyeshadow palettes. There are a few palettes, if you're like an OG, that you might notice are missing that I have owned at some point or another. But basically, if there's a palette that I have previously used and it's not here, it's because I've either gifted it or it's been rehomed or whatever to somebody else because I didn't get a lot of use out of it. So these are the ones that are permanently in my collection. They aren't going anywhere. By the way, these are my knees, they're not my boobs. I don't know if it looks like they are, but they're my knees. Just so you know. My boobs aren't this far apart, I promise. So let's start with this side. Obviously these minis, this is the mini gold from Natasha Denona. This was my first mini from her. These are new to the UK, like we've only just been able to get these minis. This one I actually ordered from London Loves Beauty, which is like an import company who imports stuff from the US, but it will cost you an arm and a leg, whereas now they're available at Cult Beauty. So this one is Mini Glam, which I picked up from Cult Beauty. I don't know how well you can see. Can you see? Can you see? Can you see? So this is Mini Glam, and this one I picked up from Cult Beauty, as they now have the minis, although we haven't got retro for some reason, which is very annoying because I 100% want to get my mitts on that one. Both of these minis I absolutely love. They're perfect for traveling with. Like if I was to go on holiday, these are the 3 palettes that I would take with me. So this is my only Viseart palette. This is the Paris Edit, which is one of their like mini palettes. Absolutely love this one. Again, if I'm going anywhere, going away for work or on holiday or something, then these are the palettes that I will take because I just love these little minis, and it's just got everything in here that you need. It's got, you know, transition shades, inner corner shades, plus a plethora of lid choices, and it's just really nice and soft and wearable for any occasion. Like you could easily wear that for work, and it's going to be perfect. Next up, my Sigma Warm Neutrals Volume 2. I don't use this one very much. It's, you know, it's a nice everyday palette, but it's just not one of my favourites. But again, it would be one that I would travel with because again, it's a nice palette. It's got lots of options that are easy for every day, but yeah, just for like some more special makeup, there are palettes that I prefer. Next up, my one Charlotte Tilbury palette, and this is the Pillow Talk palette. This is just glorious. This is like my go-to everyday makeup, you know, school run type makeup, soft, easy looks. This is kind of the one that I grab for. It's just, you can't go wrong. It's so easy, and it's so much more pigmented, I find, than it looks. One Huda Beauty palette. I liked this when I first got it. It's very like the, sorry about the mirror, I find like the textures are much drier than like the other palettes that I have, but it's not an issue. They blend out nicely. There's some really nice shades in here. I don't ever touch these glitters, obviously. These are kind of my tones, and I really love this palette, like until I sort of got a few more ABH palettes and got my Pat McGrath palettes. This was definitely like a favourite. I really, really like this one, but it doesn't get a lot of use anymore just because I have others that I prefer now. I rehomed my Desert Dusk palette because I just wasn't using it. So I did rehome the Desert Dusk palette, which is the other one I had from Huda. So I only have 2 larger Natasha Denonas, this being the more recent one, which is the Love palette. I'm obsessed with this. If I'm looking for like pinks and I want a dramatic pink look, purple look, this is like my go-to. I absolutely love this palette. I love her mattes. Natasha's mattes are just amazing. I love that you've got like this sort of option over here for a really dramatic like New Year's kind of look. Absolute favourite. I just think her formula, especially her creamy mattes, are like out of this world. They're just a dream to blend. Absolutely love this palette. And then Metropolis. I mean, if you knew me, you would never think that I would like this palette, would you? Because it's not necessarily colourful, as in it's not bright, but there's a lot of greens and blues in here, and it looks very intimidating, or it certainly does to me, someone who is a bit of a wimp when it comes to eyeshadow. But I absolutely adore it. It's just so easy, and there are a million options in here for like everyday, like soft looks, natural looks, work makeup, school run makeup. There's a million things you can do with this palette, and you just can't go wrong. Every time I open it, I just think there's, you know, I could use any shade in here. I think there's a lot of shades in here that look like shimmers but are actually mattes. So this is a matte, these two down here are mattes. I think people think a lot of these shades are shimmers because they're that creamy matte formula and they kind of look as though they may be a shimmer. This one again. So you've got a lot more mattes in here than you may think. And again, these two, I don't want to do swatches in this video because it's just going to be too long, but these shades that look so like dark, like they almost look like blacks, are actually much lighter than they look. So that's just something to think about, because it is definitely way more wearable and easygoing, I feel, than it may look. And it's just such a cohesive, well thought out palette. You've got a million options. One of my absolute favourite palettes out of this whole bunch. So now for my ABH palettes down the middle. This is the palette that started it all, my Modern Renaissance palette. Look at the utter state of her. So I've hit pan on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shades, 6 shades actually antique bronze, and there's definitely some beginnings of some pan in these couple as well, warm taupe and buon fresco. So I've 100% used, abused and loved this palette. It was probably my first like high-end palette. I certainly didn't see myself getting to this place when I first bought it, but it's so easy. I still go in here, these mattes just in the crease for every day, quick and easy. It's just, you can't go wrong. I think if you're starting out and you're beginning, it's the perfect like first palette. It certainly was for me anyway. What did I get next? I guess it would have been, was it Soft Glam or Norvina? Maybe it was Soft Glam. In fact, let's just go in the order they're in, Charlotte, for crying out loud. This is kind of the one that I guess I use the least. I love it. This is Sultry, sorry. The shimmers in here, I'm obsessed. I love every single shimmer. That you can see how easy and pretty and soft glam these shimmers are in here. But it's the mattes, I guess, that I don't love as much as some of the other palettes. They're very cool toned, which I don't mind, but I feel like it's much more of a glam evening, sexy, sultry, obviously, palette than some of the others. So this for me is more of an evening palette. And obviously I don't leave the house in the evenings, very rarely. So I tend to reach for it less. But whenever I do reach for it, I love it and it's beautiful. I love it in the evening, but it does get less use because it's less daytime, at least to me. Next up, the Carli Bybel palette. I've raved about this one. I've told you how underrated I feel this palette is. It just doesn't get the hype that I think it deserves. I think it's so different to the other ABH palettes, particularly like the collab palettes. I think it really offers something different. It's so just pretty and soft, but it's impactful and bright and colourful, and you've got so many options in here that you just don't really get with other ABH palettes, I feel. So yeah, an absolute favourite of mine. It's just so pretty. I feel like every time I wear it, people are always surprised that it's this palette, because I think it just is really underrated. I think the mattes are amazing, really well thought out. Every time I talk about this palette, I say how I wish it didn't have two basically the same shades. I think it's such a waste. But other than that, I think it's a beautiful, perfect palette. Again, if you were going to choose one that did the most different things, served the most different purposes and occasions, then this would probably be the one. Norvina, my absolute favourite, as I'm sure you know if you've been here before, of all the ABH palettes. I mean, although I haven't hit pan on it, it's a lot newer than Modern Renaissance, but I think I could hit pan on almost every shade in here at any minute. Certainly all of the shimmers, the base shade, like these two mattes. There's big old dents in here for sure. Every shimmer in here is just stunning. I love this combo with Love Volatile and Wild Child on the eye for a pink look. Perfect for like weddings. That's kind of my go-to wedding makeup. There's really only Soul in here that I don't use. Drama I use a bit less than the others, but other than that, every shade in here is loved and worn to death. It's just my tones. This is me in a palette. The shimmers are, you know, just so pretty, but, you know, really metallic and impactful, and it's just got the perfect. I love to have quite a lot of mattes, and the fact that that whole bottom row is mattes and the whole top is shimmer, I love that ratio. It's just, for me, it's my favourite ABH palette of all time. Although the cover is a disgrace. Darn velvet. And last but not least, Soft Glam. Now, this is battered. You can see it's completely destroyed. I always say that it's kind of my least favourite of the ABH palettes. And it's, I mean, that sounds really harsh to say. It sounds like I don't like it. And I really do. I really do like this palette. You can see I've got a lot of use. It's very muted. So I think it's probably the least exciting is a better way to put it, because it is, as you can see, Soft Glam, it is what it is. It does that perfectly. But it is a beautiful palette. I'd say it's probably the one that I reach for the least, because it is less exciting, you know, to look at. I think that's maybe the problem, is when you look at it, it looks very sort of dull and understated and muted, which is perfect for lots of people on lots of occasions. And every time I use it, I love it. But when I'm thinking about which one, you know, gets my heart pumping that I want to use today, it's just never this one. But it is a beautiful palette, and I know that for lots of people it's actually their favourite. So, you know, this is just my personal preference. So now for my Pat McGrath palettes. Obviously at the front, the newest to my collection, and this is Divine Rose 2. I'm just absolutely loving using this at the moment. It's always nice to get a new palette, have something new to play with. It's just so beautiful. I think I thought this was going to be very evening, and I probably wouldn't wear it like day to day, but it's totally day-to-day appropriate. It really is. It's very easy to wear. These shades, I'm just wearing them, you know, on a daily basis. I find the mattes in here are my favourite mattes from Pat McGrath ever. I just adore them. This one in particular is just perfect for every day. A one shadow, you know, buffed all over the eye. It's amazing. This shade, very deceptive. It's got a lovely pink like hue to it, and it just looks like a sort of creamy inner corner, you know, standard shade, but it's actually got quite a pink tone to it. I love everything about it. It's beautiful, it's glorious. I'm certainly just basking in, you know, and loving it at the moment. This is Mothership 1, so this is before Divine Rose 2. This was my second most recent purchase. I picked this up after watching a couple of videos, one from Mel Thompson and one from Michelle Wong, where they both talked about this, and I thought, oh, I really do need it. It's really funny because I'm looking at this in the pan, and this shade here is stunning lilac, and it looks like on camera it's blue. Which is what I just love about this shadow. There you go, that's what I can see, is that lilac in the mirror, which is very strange, and what I love about these palettes. But I mean, this again is definitely more evening, apart from the mattes are very, very easy to wear, and you know, combined with one of these more muted shades, you can do daytime. But this is like, for me, a sort of evening, cooler toned, eye-catching look. I think, and again, these two shades over here are just so stunning. You can't wear this palette without somebody asking you, what palette is that? What have you got on your eyes? It's just so special. I don't have anything else like this in my collection, as you can see, but I just adore it. Very excited to use that one. Next up, this is Mothership 5, which was my first Pat McGrath palette, so the most used and abused. This one, for me, it's so filthy. I wish I'd gone through and cleaned them all, but that wouldn't be very real life, would it? And so that's not very me. But this one, it's just the easiest one. You know, these mattes paired together, or just this matte on its own, very everyday, and you've got everyday lid options in here as well. You know, this on the lid with this shade, maybe a bit of this one in the crease, or the aubergine. It's very, again, deceptive because you can really get a very deep shade out of this one, but you can also use it lightly and it be very soft and perfect for every day. This is my favourite shimmer in the palette, this rose gold. It's just stunning for every occasion. You know, you've got so many options in here. It's probably, you know, more of a versatile palette from Pat because you do have softer options, but you also have wow options in here as well. I think if you were going to pick one Pat McGrath palette to start off with, I would recommend this one because it gives you the most variance as far as looks. And last but not least, this is Divine Rose 01, the original Divine Rose. Absolutely adore it. It's just so muted and understated yet special. Like, only Pat can make a palette that is this special and creates this sort of special and beautiful and eye-catching of a look, yet it seems so just understated and muted. It's so beautiful. If you're a bit more colour shy, if you're a bit more everyday versus big occasion, if you're a bit more soft glam than over the top all out full beat, this would be the Pat palette that I would recommend to you. It's just so pretty, and yes, it's more muted and soft compared to most of her other palettes, but it's still so special, but just in a softer glam kind of way. So there you have it. That is my eyeshadow collection, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye 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 bye.